You have doubted. Maybe you're doubting right now. And the most astonishing thing about this story is that Jesus already knew and came back anyway. The evening of the first Easter is almost over. Jerusalem is quiet in the way that cities get quiet after something enormous has happened. The streets are empty. The temple guards are still on edge. Pilate's soldiers are watching. And somewhere in the upper city, in a borrowed room behind a locked door, 10 frightened men are huddled together, barely breathing. 10, not 11, because Thomas isn't there. We don't know where he went. Scripture doesn't tell us. Maybe he couldn't stand the grief of the other disciples. Maybe being alone felt more honest than pretending to hope. Whatever his reason, Thomas walks out into the dark city alone, and that absence will define him for 2,000 years. Inside the room, something happens that changes everything. John tells it plainly in his gospel. Jesus came and stood among them, John 20:19. No knock, no creak of the door. One moment, the room is just 10 broken men. The next moment, Jesus is standing there. He shows them his hands, he shows them his side, and the room erupts, not into chaos, but into something the Greek language calls chara, the deep, uncontainable joy that only comes when something you thought was dead turns out to be alive. But Thomas isn't there to see it. Here's the question that will haunt the next 8 days. What does it cost a man to miss the one moment that changes everything? Thomas comes back, we don't know how much later, and the others are still talking over each other, barely coherent. We have seen the Lord. That exact phrase. Thomas hears it, and something closes inside him. Not cruelty, not stubborn pride. Something closer to the protective reflex of a man who has already been devastated once and cannot survive being devastated again. He says it plainly. Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. John 20:25. What's easy to miss here is that Thomas doesn't say he can't believe. He says he won't. That is a choice. And it is, in its own way, a form of courage. The terrible courage of a man who refuses to let hope trick him again. This is the locked room inside Thomas. Not doubt as laziness, doubt as armor. St. Augustine understood this kind of wound. He wrote that the human heart is made for truth. But when truth has broken us once, we build walls even against the very thing we need most. Thomas has loved Jesus completely. He walked with him for 3 years. He watched him die. And now his fellow disciples are asking him to open that door again, on nothing but their word. For Thomas, that is too much. He needs the wounds themselves. 8 days pass, 8 long days where Thomas lives inside his own refusal. The others are glowing, and he is stone. They speak of resurrection, and he keeps his face still. Every night he lies down with that demand, show me the wounds. And every morning he wakes up no closer to the answer. Then, on the 8th day, the disciples are together again. This time, Thomas is with them. The door is locked, same as before, and with no introduction, no ceremony, the room changes. Jesus is there. He looks directly at Thomas, not at the group, at Thomas, and he says, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." John 20:27. Slow down here, because this moment is staggering. Jesus knows exactly what Thomas said. Word for word, he repeats it back. Not to embarrass him, not to shame him, but to show Thomas that while he was alone in the dark city, with his grief and his walls and his very specific demand, Jesus was already listening. He already knew. he came back 8 days later specifically for Thomas. He walked through another locked door specifically for the one man who said, "I will not believe." This is grace moving first, always first. Thomas did nothing to deserve this visitation. He wasn't praying, he wasn't seeking, he was refusing. And Jesus came anyway. St. John Chrysostom once said that Christ's wounds, kept even in his glorified body, are not marks of defeat. They are trophies of love, evidence preserved so that even the most defended heart could find its way to faith. Thomas needed to see the cost. Jesus made sure the cost was still visible. Thomas opens his mouth, and what comes out is the highest confession in the entire Gospel of John. "Not my teacher, not my rabbi, not even my Lord." He says, "My Lord and my God." John 20:28. It is the most complete declaration of Christ's identity in the New Testament, and it comes from the mouth of the man who refused to believe without proof. Doubt did not disqualify Thomas. Doubt became the road that led him to the deepest faith. C.S. Lewis once observed that God uses our very resistance as the raw material of our surrender. The locked door becomes the thing that makes the entrance miraculous. If Thomas had been in the room on Easter Sunday, faith might have come easy, and easy faith forgets what it cost. But because Thomas waited in the dark, because he demanded, because he refused, his faith, when it finally broke through, was forged at a depth the others hadn't reached yet. There is an older story underneath this one. In the book of Genesis, Jacob wrestles with God in the dark and refuses to let go until he receives a blessing. Genesis 32:26. He limps away from that encounter forever, but his name becomes Israel, the one who strives with God. Thomas strives with God in those 8 days. He limps away too, probably. But his name becomes something else. The one who called Jesus God and meant it with his whole broken life. The early church understood Thomas this way. Tradition tells us he carried that faith all the way to India, planted churches across the Eastern world, and died a martyr for the Christ he once refused to believe had risen. The doubter became the apostle of the furthest reaches of the world. Grace doesn't just restore, it multiplies. And this is where the story stops being about Thomas. Because you know the locked room, you have sat in it. Maybe you are sitting in it right now, not in Jerusalem, but in a hospital waiting room, or a marriage that is falling apart, or a faith that used to feel solid and now feels like sand. You have said some version of what Thomas said. "Show me. Prove it. I need something real, because I have been hurt by hope before." The question isn't whether you are allowed to doubt. Thomas proves you are. The question is whether you are willing to stay in the room, to come back even when you are unconvinced, to keep showing up to the community of faith even when you feel like the one person who doesn't believe what everyone else believes. Because Jesus doesn't visit the person who has it all figured out and gone home. He visits the person who is still there, still in the room, still present even in their refusal. The wounds of Jesus are still the answer to our deepest demand for proof. Not because Christianity is irrational. Aquinas would push back hard on that. But because the resurrection is not a proposition to be accepted. It is a person to be encountered. And that person is still walking through locked doors. Your locked door is not an obstacle to him. It is his next entrance. Whatever room you have locked yourself inside, grief, anger, exhaustion, the very specific demand that God prove himself before you'll risk opening again. Know this. He has already heard exactly what you said, and he is already on the other side of the door.